Welcome to The Healthy Beast. I'm very honoured to be joined today by a jiu-jitsu grandmaster, Mauricio Gomes. Now, your jiu-jitsu pedigree is second to none. You were one of a very small handful of black belts under Rolls Gracie, one of the greatest of all time, and you've got a famous student or two of your own, most notably, of course, your son, Roger Gracie Gomes, greatest jiu-jitsu competitor of all time. So it's a great honour to have you in the studio, and of course I want to talk about jiu-jitsu, but can I ask you one question to start with? Is it true that you once worked as a translator for the Dalai Lama?
Yeah. I got a job in the state Congress, and I worked there for years. And one of these years, there was a convention in the Congress, and with all the spiritual leaders, and Dalai Lama was there, and I was his translator. I became friends with his security and all that, and I made the most terrible mistake of my entire life. In the end of the thing, we got to know each other, and we were kind of talking, and thank you for everything, and I touched the guy's arm, man. Jesus Christ.
Oh, so no one's allowed to touch him, right?
No, of course not. You don't touch it. No, that was an awful mistake. But you have to understand that, put into context, we're Brazilians are very touchy. We hug each other a lot. We kiss, we hug. That's very normal for us. That's why I think jiu-jitsu came so natural in Brazil. And there was this massive difference when I came here to start teaching. People had Bruce Lee tattoos on his arms, and everything was no contact. And it was quite an experience having to change that mentality. All right, now we're grabbing, now we're holding. Now we're taking down. There's sweating on top of you and uncomfortableness. It's part of it.
I think that is that's a big problem. Maybe particularly for British people. Maybe you found that because jiu-jitsu. Yes. Yeah, this idea of having full body contact with someone and someone sweating all over you. It's a barrier for a lot of people.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I think all of this obviously is about the instructors. Now you have to make your student as comfortable as possible. In the beginning, it was a bit difficult because a lot of people came to the gym either to challenge you or to see if you were reasonable enough to handle them, and some others obviously knew nothing and wanted to start learning jiu-jitsu. So there was a quite a big contrast in that sense. Because of the UFC, jiu-jitsu came out into the world as sort of MMA mix. Oh, I want to do jiu-jitsu because I saw the UFC. Say, wait a minute. That's one thing. Jiu-jitsu is about that. It will prepare you for that. But after a number of years, everybody in the entire world started learning jiu-jitsu. So they added this to their own game, and that's what happened. That was what was happening here in the beginning. I had a lot of black belts from a lot of other modalities that were not interested in self-defense or that kind of thing. They wanted to learn groundwork. They were black belts in their own, so they could handle themselves very easily. So this was a factor that happened in a lot of gyms. They skipped that initial part, how to defend yourself, martial art as a whole. Over the years, that kept changing, and now these days, I think jiu-jitsu is getting back to where it should have been years ago. You learn your self-defense, you learn how to defend yourself, and you have the groundwork. If you're a competitor, you go compete. If not, you don't. Not everybody goes to a gym to compete. 90% of the people that go to a gym don't want to compete.
Do you think some jiu-jitsu schools are guilty of forgetting the self-defense aspect?
I wouldn't want to put them like, oh, you're guilty because you're not doing this or that. I think it's a choice. The instructor, when he opens up a gym, he has the choice. He's a black belt. He knows what he learned. He knows what he has to teach his students to be good. So if you want to run your school only for competitive style sort of thing, I can guarantee you that you're not going to be, it'll be successful. You'll have tough guys and all that. But there's a whole range of people that would be missing out in not going to your gym because of that, specifically because of that. I know that. I have experience in that, and I've seen, sometimes you're running a really hardcore session. A guy out of the blue, oh, can I have a look? He just walked through the door. Yeah, sit down, have a look. He looks at the guys that are training for a competition class or training a bit harder. He looks at that, said, "Whoa, that's not for me. I can't, I can't do that. I'm not that aggressive. I'm not that." You can actually make him. He doesn't know it yet. You can actually make him get to that point. You just have to give yourself a little bit of time. But at the same time, you want him to feel as comfortable as possible. As he walked in the door, I said no, because the mentality of the jiu-jitsu martial art is very Brazilian, is very accommodating and laughter and having fun and sparring, but still having fun and learning and making friends and going out into the other academies or around the world. Nowadays, you can get your gi if you're going to travel somewhere. You can go practically anywhere in the world, and there will be somewhere for you to have a little training session if you want.
It is a wonderfully friendly community because for me, going to karate clubs and kickboxing clubs growing up, these are quite kind of aggressive places in that people would look at you wondering who you were, and it was that kind of slightly macho atmosphere. Whereas jiu-jitsu they welcome, although it's tough when you're on the mat, but as a place they welcome everyone in.
Yeah, it's not as strict. I think those martial arts are very strict in the sense that they came from Japan, and the mentality is actually almost a military regime inside the gym. And jiu-jitsu is not about that at all. Jiu-jitsu is very relaxed, very rewarding, very compensating. People, jiu-jitsu gyms, they can even work as therapy sessions.
I heard you mention this in a previous interview. You talked about it as therapy, and it made me laugh because I was thinking, to somebody outside of jiu-jitsu, they all know that at its core it's a martial art, and it became famous for overpowering larger opponents, and it's a fighting art. But to think of a therapy which involves strangling people, I think might be strange to the outsider.
It can be, yeah. If you say it like that, yeah. So, oh my God, how can that be a therapy at all? But it's not only the environment of you trying to beat your opponent and him trying to beat you up. It happens in a way. Obviously, it can go rough, but it can also go very, very likable. Like, I was training yesterday, obviously, with a friend of mine, and we talk and train at the same time. And then he does a move, he swept me, or I swept him, and say, "Hey, oh my God, you got it." So you make that into a very relaxed environment, and that's what we try to give to all of our students. They are relaxed, they're comfortable, they come to the gym. A lot of times you hear guys, girls, women, "Oh, I had a really bad day at work, I just want to sit here," or my wife is really bothering me today, or my husband is really bothering me today. They go to the gym, they do a session, they train or not. Sometimes you only do the positions, you only do the warm-up, and then I don't want to train today. Or you just sit there and watch, or sit in the bench, or talk with people that are coming in. And that's the whole thing about jiu-jitsu. The difference is, I think, that it's that welcoming family environment that we try to give to our students.
I certainly agree, and it certainly works for me. But was it different back in Rio? Because you've been in the UK, about 20 years now?
22.
22 years. So growing up back in Brazil, was it when it wasn't so well known? Because I guess you were at the age when not everybody knew what jiu-jitsu was about.
Even back then in Brazil, in the beginning, when we were all friends, this environment always existed. Obviously, in those days, the core people that did jiu-jitsu wasn't that big. It started to really grow, I think, more in the 80s, and then it started to pick up. More academies started to open up, and we hardly had any competition. When we did, we would all try to compete because we didn't know when the other one would come. And in that aspect, I think the IBJJF, a lot of people criticize them, but man, they did a wonderful job. They spread jiu-jitsu throughout the world, throughout these competitions. A lot of it, and yeah, there's the competition side of jiu-jitsu, which is sometimes a bit annoying. People playing only by the rule set and forgetting that he's supposed to there to make the guy tap, to finish the guy up and not score a point. But anyway, that's their choice.
So competing back then, was it more or less like competitions now, or did you also still have the gym battles where you'd get like karate guys coming in to challenge you, this sort of thing?
No, all that was done before. The Carlos and Elio and Carson and the first generation of Gracies did all that for us. When I started, well, I started when I was a kid, but by the time I was in my late teens, there was obviously the battles of academies. Oh, we have that academy in Tijuca. We have to do well this competition because we want to win or whatever. But there was this academy called Kyoto. The head instructor was Francisco Mansur. He's a red belt grandmaster, and he's a very nice guy. And he had so many students that he would fill up all the categories of so they would always win on points because they had more students. But it was battles after battles. It was nice. It was good. Halls used to compete. It was nice to see Halls compete. Oh my God.
Because people that don't know, Rolls Gracie tragically died very young.
Yeah. Halls was a very fearless person. I think he liked to defy life. Life gives you warnings. He died of a hang gliding accident, and he had 2 accidents before the fatal one. He was warned twice, but I think his mission on Earth was completed. He had to go.
So what age was he?
He was 31. It was on the... It's a very odd date. It's the 6th of June of 82. And the 6th of June is, I don't know if you know that, but Robert Kennedy died on the 6th of June. D-Day was on the 6th of June. Several things throughout history on the 6th of June. Funny.
But he was a friend as much as an instructor to you.
Yeah, a friend. He was my brother-in-law because he was my wife's, at the time, brother. So we used to hang out a lot. And I think he saw in me a very good potential fighter. That's why he invited me to be an instructor in his new gym. And we got along really well. And yeah, we were friends. We used to travel, go to to the houses that they had in the mountains. We used to train, run, climb hills, work out. It was a very, very rewarding time.
And what was it about Rolls Gracie that made him such a influential figure? Did he have physical attributes, mental attributes, a combination of those?
I would say that it's a combination of them. He was very intelligent, very quick in his thoughts, and always very open-minded to the world, And his mom used to work for, I think, Delta Airlines or something. I think it was Delta. And he would have access to air tickets. So he used to travel a lot. Sometimes he would go to New York to spend the weekend, come back to Rio. And things like that. Go to Mexico, see something, come back. And so we had in him like this figure of, man, he's he was good looking. He was a good fighter. He could beat anybody up at the time, and he was always interested in learning more, and that alone is an inspiration. You know, you see a person at that level said, "Oh, guy, okay, he can settle down and relax." And no, he was eager to learn more and digging to see what else he could learn, what else he could compete, what else he could bring us, or how he could take us to the next level. He was that kind of guy. He was nice to be around. It was fun. It was just, funny, and could be tough when he needed to be, and he would tell us off when he needed to do. And yeah, we all of us, everybody that I know, I don't know anybody that would say anything bad about Halls. No, he's just one of those guys that you meet in life that said, "My God." And usually these people, they come and go. Their mission here is complete before we think.
When he died, were you torn between wanting to push forward his legacy, as you obviously have done, but at the time were you torn between wanting to push forward his legacy and kind of feeling disheartened because your instructor and friend had gone?
Training. I stopped training for a while.
For how long?
Properly, years.
Years.
Yeah.
So
I didn't. You know, when we had so much there, and all of them, poof, went away in the air. So he didn't have. He only had like 6 black belts, and we all kind of scattered to the wind. Jacare built his own school. Master had his own business. The other 3 got jobs just like me, and I think, and it took me. You know, when you go to a gym and you don't fit. Not that because they treated you badly or something like that. It's not the same thing. So you go to another, because I had a lot of friends that had gyms, so I could actually go anywhere and train or see them. But I just couldn't. Took me about 4 or 5 years maybe. And then Henzo opened his first gym in Rio, near my house actually. And then I started again. Then I didn't stop.
So in that 4 or 5 years, did you train like occasionally or?
Yeah, probably once or twice a week, something like just keep it going.
And before that, you'd been because you're younger than Halls, you were a young black belt, but you know, still fairly early on in your jiu-jitsu career. Mm. What was it like going back after that big gap?
Well, it was not easy because a lot of people that you knew now were higher belts and all that, but the mentality was always there. Just keep on going, just keep on training. You get better. Your timing goes back. Feel fine. Then I started training again, and then after a few year or 2 or something like that, Henzo went to New York.
Henzo?
He moved to New York.
Mm-hmm.
So then again, I said, "Oh man, what am I going to do now? Where am I going to train?" Same thing happened.
Oh, so you spent a couple of years training under another amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner, and then he left.
Yeah, he moved to New York.
So what did you do then?
And then, luckily for me, another good friend opened his gym near my house, Alexandre Paiva, and he's one of the head of the Alliance team. It's him, Fábio Gurgel, and Jacare, which are the same lineage as Halls, because Jacare is one of the black belts as I am.
The famous 5 or 6?
6. Yeah, we were 6. And so Alexandre Paiva is Jacare's black belt. So, but he's a very excellent guy. So I stayed with him, and every time I go to Brazil, I train. But now he moved to the United States just before the COVID thing happened. He's living in Idaho.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why, but he moved to Idaho. No, I don't know where I'm going to train. But I'll train probably. His son still has the gym, but there are other friends because Rio is a very I live in the South Zone, Ipanema, Leblon, Copacabana. I don't know if you've ever been to Rio, but that's where I live. That's where I used to live. So to go to Baja, that's why I never went to Gracie Baja. Only when Roger started competing, then I joined. I started going to Gracie Baja more and more because it's very far away, and the traffic is really bad. It'll take you from Ipanema to Baja at least a couple of hours. So it's a nightmare to get to. So yeah, I'd rather stay around where I live. There's Zabeleza that has his gym near me, and other friends too. A lot of people left Rio. There's a lot in America. I think some came to Europe.
It's spread out all around the world, and you've been referred to as the godfather of British Jiu-Jitsu because of what you've done to popularise it in this country. You know, have you heard this, godfather of British Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, it's really annoying. Isn't
You don't like that?
I don't know why.
You don't like that?
I find it weird.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, because of the word godfather, or because of the juxtaposition of British and Jiu-Jitsu? Because it's
I hear about Godfather. The first thing that comes to mind is the film, The Godfather, that I really, really love.
Oh, that's not so bad then. There are worse things to be associated with. I mean, no one thinks you're a crime boss.
No, it's not that. But why the time? I wasn't the first. There were other people here teaching. There was Shea Moraes. Mark Walder was already a blue belt teaching in East London, and there was Arlands. It was a brown belt at the time teaching here too. I think I can. There were Dickie and Simon with the Carson Gracie team that has always been there. So I think I can say that I did my contribution to the jiu-jitsu in this country by, putting it out there and bringing people over to do seminars. And Enzo came right away to help, and others came.
Well, it's very modest of you, but I mean, you definitely done a lot for jiu-jitsu in this country. You're saying Halls saw you as having physical gifts, because when jiu-jitsu hit the UFC and became world famous, it was seen, because of Royce Gracie and some of the guys he fought, it was seen as like how a little a guy could overpower these big guys with technique. You're also quite a big guy, so it almost seems unfair. You've got the jiu-jitsu and you're a big guy as well. So the combination together, I guess, makes quite a formidable fighter, right?
Yeah, it was not bad.
It's not bad.
It was not bad. I can still do my job, but what I learn now is with my son and my nephew and the kids in the gym. It's very rewarding. It's so nice to be able to finally now settle down, and when we can open it, I don't know when, but to have to be able to work with your son is very rewarding, and him being who he is, it's nice.
I mean, Roger's record speaks for itself. What age was he when you kind of thought, actually, he's not just going to be okay at this, he could be the greatest?
I think it came from him, but when he really, I always pushed him to do jiu-jitsu since he was young, but he was a bit lazy at some stages, but when he was like 14 or 15, he went to visit his cousins in the south of Brazil, and when they saw him there, they said, he was a little bit chubby. He said, no way, you can't be a Gracie and be like that. So they lived on a farm, so they would go out. When they would go back to the house, they would stop the car in the farm. Now get out of the car. You run to the house to earn your breakfast. So he started there. I think that's when it clicked on him. Said, "Oh, I got to train," because then it's kind of sort of you have cousins and uncles and everybody. So are you training? Why are you not training? Let's train with him a bit. So you get beaten up by your own cousin and said, "Whoa, I don't want that. I want to beat him next time." So you start training, and automatically that comes into your system. So he did his first world championship as a blue belt. And I remember at that time, I think you would have to have like 15 fights or something like that in one day. And I don't know how those blue belts do that, man. They do 15, 16 fights in one day.
Imagine.
Whew. So he was world champion as a blue belt and then as a purple. And at some point, I think he was back then, right there and then, he told his mother and said, "I'm going to be the best fighter in the world." And he was.
So this is kind of as a teenager.
He was in his late 16, 17.
But did you teach him the basics when he was tiny, or
Nope.
no?
No. Well, for a very, very long time, I did this with all my kids. Some of them said, "Oh, you were really annoying with that." Like they're walking in the living room and then you grab and put in your guard. Get out of there. So they struggle. You put him back in the guard again, and struggle, put him back in the guard again, or do something like that. Just to annoy them. They understand now. This is me telling them how much I love them. You always do something to, make them think about, oh, wait a minute, okay, what do I do now? How do I get out of here? Even my daughters, they all know how to defend themselves. My youngest is a black belt in kickboxing as well.
Really?
She trains jiu-jitsu, but not as much. She teaches kickboxing in Rio.
With competing in jiu-jitsu, I mean, there are risks to your health. You can pop things, but MMA is a different thing, really. What's it like to watch your son competing in a cage, fighting for UFC or whatever?
Yeah, I think it changed a lot when I saw him. Roger did the most beautiful competition. To this day, out of all of Roger's competitions, I know there were many of them. And by the IBJJF put out like a percentage of wins and submissions. And for I don't know how many competitions, world competitions, a lot of them. And Roger was number 1 in submissions. And number 2 was Xande Ribeiro. But he came in second, and he had 50% of Roger's submissions. So it was a very... Roger's thing was always very high in submitting people. So when I saw him compete, he went to Hensel in 2003 to train, 2002 to train for the Abu Dhabi Championship in 2003, which he didn't win. He came in second, but he won Zemarius Berry, which was a huge name at the time, and he had to fight his cousin Machado Egan. He won too, but he lost his last fight. The guy had him in a body triangle, and it took a while to get out. By the time he got out, he lost. So because of that, he got Rogers like that. Sometimes he gets very determined in his ways. Said, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna win this. So they made him in 2005. He said, we can't put you in the competition. You're gonna have to do the trials in Brazil, even though he was living here. So we went to São Paulo, and he had to do 3 fights. He submitted all 3. And then we went on to, that was the first time I saw the Pyramid in Long Beach, California, where they do the Worlds. Amazing gymnasium. And Roger did, at that weekend, he submitted 8 opponents. 8 guys that, man, he tapped Xande twice, Fabrício Verdun, Ronaldo Jacaré, and others that...
Massive names.
Massive
themselves.
names that are still there, around, fighting. And that was a beautiful weekend. And he was so pleased. And then I saw the okay, no gi is good. But when he actually, we went, his first fight was in Vancouver, Canada, a guy called Ron Waterman. He was training in New York, like always, for his fights. So he caught a Saturday night. The fight would have been the following weekend. He got out of the gym, and he got a bit chilly because he was sweating and it was freezing. And he got a flu. He got a cold, and we had to fly to Canada. And man, he had fever. He was sweating. He was poorly. Sunday, Monday. We already in Vancouver. Sunday, Monday, and losing weight, and couldn't do anything. Couldn't even train that week. And we took a guy with us so they could train. Couldn't do anything. And we even get garlic to eat garlic. I hate garlic.
We're trying all the old wives' tales to see what worked.
But he got a bit better by Thursday. He did the weigh-in on the Friday. And Ron Waterman, I don't know if you ever saw him, but he's a massive guy. He's huge, 125 kilos or something like that. He took his shirt off for the weigh-in. Roger took his. Like Roger lost weight. He was 98 or 96 kilos. Roger's tall. He looked thin close to the guy. And said, "Oh my God, man, why are we here?" And yeah, it's part of the process, I guess. So, and he won in like 2 minutes or 3. The guy threw him on the floor, bang, and Roger snapped up for an armbar. Roger's quite a big guy, man. Ron lift Roger up from the floor with one arm, poof, and slammed him again. But Roger just adjusted the armbar even more, and he had to tap. He couldn't even stretch his hand to shake hands, and the thing was just so tight. And that was when I actually felt, when you see your son, because he managed to, Roger never got really hit really hard, but in the face. But when you see your son getting hit in the face, it's weird.
It must be hard. It must be really
It's
hard.
not easy.
No.
Even though we come from a family of fighters, and I've been watching fights my whole life, but always other guys, friends or what have you. But when it's your son, things change a bit. You get a bit emotional. But I think it was his choice. He did 10 fights. He won 8, lost 2. And he decided to stop when he won that belt in 1FC. And that was it. That was the end of his MMA career. He didn't want to fight anymore. I think at that point, Roger was already thinking about, I've been doing this a lot. Jiu-jitsu, he had stopped in 2010, was his last jiu-jitsu match, a championship. His last match was with Busheshana 3 years ago. But I think he did what he needed to do. He doesn't feel like, he doesn't have the motivation now to keep on competing. I think in his mind, he's settled now.
Well, certainly nothing left to prove in either discipline. Were you partly relieved when he retired from?
I knew that it would only get harder and harder, because no matter how you want to put it, we can. I'm 65. I still train. I still teach. I still do a lot of things that some people my age can't do. But I try to look after myself a bit. And I think what happened in Roger's mind is what you see a lot in fighters is, as they grow in their careers and they don't get to a point where they said, okay, it's time, it's enough for me, I'm going to step down, let the boat go on. People get older. And no matter how you want to put it, our sport is very close contact sport. So to be on a high level professional that these guys are, like Roger, Shunji, Bushisha, Jacaré, they're on a different level. And they're athletes of a very high standards. So the training to maintain yourself like that is very, very hard. You know, it's a life of sacrifice. It's a life of you have to put away a lot of things and not do anything for years. Roger completed for 20 years, from 16 to 36. So training and training and training and training, that hammers your body down. You know, at some point you have to train and wake up and eat well, and that goes on for the whole length of your life, and you don't really do anything. And Roger got to a point in his career now that I think he thought, okay, it's time. I'm gonna stop competing and look after his gym and teach more and worry about what is he gonna do in his later years. You see a lot of fighters trying. It's very, especially in the UFC, you see a lot of guys that are still older and they're still fighting in the fight. Not so good. Remember when Lyoto kicked Randy Couture in the face and there was teeth everywhere? That was so sad to see. Such an excellent fighter. Sometimes they don't know when, time to stop now. But sometimes they keep on fighting because either they need the money or they can't live without that adrenaline kick that gives you, know?
Yeah, anything that involves striking, it's tough to see someone go on too long, whether it's boxing or MMA. You know, someone like Randy Couture that maybe could have quit before. But one of the appealing things about jiu-jitsu, certainly to me, is that it's something you can do for your whole life.
Oh, yeah. I think just Roger doesn't want to compete as masters or seniors. I don't know why.
No.
But he said he doesn't have that motivation anymore to actually, I'm going to really train now to fight. I think he's done that for so long that now he's nah.
Well, he's got a full life's work ahead of him if he wants it, teaching seminars. I mean, there's no end of people who want to learn from him.
He still trains anybody that not now obviously, but he's always keeping himself trains with all the students. He's the one that runs the competition classes. Invite people from other gyms to come and train.
You said you're 65 now, still looking in great shape.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you had to change the way you train over the years? Because you started when you were a kid, right? And then got to a high level pretty young, and then you had that time off. But have you had to, as you went through 40, 50, and even into 60, have you had to adapt what you do a lot?
I'm always adapting. Always adapting. There's a lot of positions or situations that I don't fight for it anymore. I just let it happen. For example, if I'm defending my guard, for those who don't know, when we put our backs on the floor, we're defending our guard. That means that we're trying to keep the person in front of us, not coming to the side where we can be attacked. So some of the position is too straining, or you're training with. I choose very, very carefully who I'm going to spar with. You don't want a really 120 kilo clumsy person that doesn't know that much coming to try to hurt you, because if you don't want to take care of yourself. So it's not that they want to. Sometimes people do it like a sudden move or something like that, and then you get hurt. And then in my age, everything takes longer to recover. So yeah, I look after myself. I train very carefully, trying not to hurt myself, because that means that I have to take time off, and it's not good. So you just have to pace yourself as you age, and that will come naturally for people. Well, you can't expect to be 50 and train in equal terms with a 25-year-old. That's impossible. That's not going to happen. With all the experience that you have, if obviously if it's a high-level fighter, oh man, no. If you can survive for like 5-10 minutes, fine. That's all you should want. You can't expect more than that. But still being able to train, that's rewarding. That's very nice.
Because I guess being able to rein it in is a very important part of the game for lots of things. Being able to control your ego and
ego. That's it. You have to leave your ego aside. Man, if you get caught something that it doesn't mean anything, you have nothing to prove after a certain age. So if you get submitted for some reason, or because you weren't paying attention, or because you just couldn't bother, or you're training with a student, it doesn't matter what happens anyway. Yeah, things happen. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. People have to understand that after somebody taps or after the buzzer goes, you have the life is like life giving you a second chance. All right, let's start again. Nah? And then you can do whatever you want to do. Okay, time. Okay, let's start again. I'm going to do better now.
Yeah, when you see those people that they hate getting tapped and they're like furious when they're getting tapped, normally they don't last, from what I've seen.
That's what jiu-jitsu brings to the table, that balance. You have to learn how to lose, but you have to learn how to win as well. You can't just think that, oh, I won today, I'm the king of the hill. You won't be tomorrow. There's always ups and downs, always ups and downs. There's no such thing as a guy, I've never lost in my life, or who you're trying to fool.
No, this was what you could get away in the old pre-UFC days. People used to get away with this, like pretending they knew some magical martial art that never got tested. But yeah, with jiu-jitsu, it goes through the grinder every time you train, and
it will teach you something every time. That's why you can expect, and you can see that people come out of the gym humbled or happy. It will teach you how to behave. And we talked about jiu-jitsu being a therapy and all of that. I apply and I put jiu-jitsu, I think, not only because I've been doing it my whole life, but I apply the principles of our martial art in everything I do in life. On how you handle things, on how you see things in life, on how you relate to people. And you learn so much with that. And it's something that always attracted, I think that attracts a lot of people, is being able to translate the martial arts to your everyday life. Simple stuff like you're watching TV and you want to sit up and say, wait a minute, put the hand on the floor, do a technical stand-up. It works.
yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why you mentioned something simple like standing up. It's almost like we have to make things hard for ourselves. So you'll see an older person trying to stand up with just their legs. Whereas, you've got hands, you've got things to lean on. You don't have to. You should be doing things in the most efficient way.
Yeah,
possible.
What do you see a lot in white belts that just started in your gym training? You put them with their back on the floor, and some of them are strong, so they're holding and they're throwing and they're pushing and they're bench pressing and what have you. And you look at them and say, "Why are you struggling so much? You forgot that you have 2 legs to use." So that's not only here. It starts with you have 4 limbs. Use them. And then a hip escape. Get out of the way. Do simple things that will help you. Sometimes a little adjustment will go a long way. Now what's the first thing that you learn when hip escape, hip escape, hip escape, hip escape. Oh, this is boring. I had a teacher, one of my first ones. He was a very strict person. He was a police officer, and he used to make us do weird things in beginning class, like stand up, and you have to close your eyes, and your stretch your hands, and you have to find your nose every single time with your hand, like, and then he used to put us through hipscape, through the mat, back and forth, back and forth. And we used to look at, nobody would say anything, obviously, but we would just look at him, keep on going. This is the best thing you're going to learn in jiu-jitsu, and it is. That little movement that you do by moving your hips and getting away from the person will give you enough distance to bring a limb in, to get away, to stand up, or to do what have you, gets you off that suffocation or whatever it is, or in self-defense, like just using just a simple frame. Here, this is my frame. This is my private space. You're not coming in.
Perhaps the thing that translates best to everyday life is not panicking.
Yes,
because
absolutely. When somebody is mounted on you, you want anything worse than that for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing? Mount on somebody, or put your knee on belly, or have a strong side control, suffocating the person on the side. My God, man, that's when they actually, a lot of people have difficulties in handling these situations. They panic. They literally panic. They have problems with that feeling, that overwhelming feeling of somebody so close and suffocating you. I've seen that happen in the gym, and the instructors have to be very, very aware in the beginner's class to identify the people that have these issues and help them throughout that beginning of their journey in the martial art, in dealing with that process. Breathe. Learn to breathe. Breathe, let the air out, relax. There's nothing going on. It's just a little bit of weight on top. And then you and then you start learning ways of getting yourself better, being able to breathe. Or if things are not the way you want them to be, or not happy, tap or ask to stop and go over again, and we'll start again, or we'll give you more information to help you with that specific situation.
Because I can still remember that feeling of panic, the suffocating panic.
Yeah.
But of course, whether it's panic because someone's on top of you, or panic because you're in a difficult situation, job interview, confrontation, anything like that, it's the same mentality, isn't it? Because you have something which could potentially make you panic, and you need to, as calmly as possible, decide
which way to go.
Yeah, which option to take. And thankfully, most of life, there's not someone trying to strangle you, so your options are fairly simple in comparison. Do I say this or say that? Do this, do that? But
or do I just walk away?
Just walk away. Yeah.
Most likely, that's the best option. Just walk away. You don't need to confront anything, unless you're being actually confronted in a situation where you can't. That's one of the main things that you teach in self-defense, especially when you're teaching kids and people that are just starting, kids, women, men, that initial situation where they think, oh, I learned a few moves of self-defense, oh, I'm really good to go. I can then take the person down and try something. No, that's not the point. The point is you're being able to defend yourself, getting rid of that specific situation, and then get away, call for help, or what have you. Unless you're fighting for your life, then that's another level. That's why jiu-jitsu is so popular in the armed forces and all the first responders. It's very easy to learn some ways of defending yourself against somebody that wants to do harm to you.
But it seems to me that the better you get at jiu-jitsu, the calmer you are and the less likely you are to...
It's because you get used to being in difficult situations. And that's why people, when they're training, especially in the beginning, you do a lot of specific training. And people shouldn't forget that that's what's going to make their jiu-jitsu grow and learn and be good. It's the actual specific sparring and training. I hate having somebody on side control. Okay, then train that position. Or I hate having somebody in the mount. Train that so you can get, when that happens, you don't get that, oh, well, what do I do now? No, I'm used to this. I know what to do. You breathe, you look at the person, say, okay, let's go. No worries here. Not a problem whatsoever. I know how to handle myself. I know what to do. Breathe and do whatever you have to do.
Amazing. Well, jiu-jitsu's been incredibly important to me, and Mauricio Gomes, it's been a great pleasure to have you in the studio.
Oh, thank you. The
Thank
pleasure
you
is all
very
mine.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much again to Sensei Mauricio Gomes. Find out more at mauriciogomesbjj.com. He's mauriciogomez.bjj on Instagram. And you can see the online videos that he does with his son Roger at rogergracietv.com. And Roger Gracie is at Roger Gracie on Instagram. Healthy Beast is at Healthy Beast Podcast on Instagram. Thank you very much.